Hello, welcome to Bentley Navigator, perhaps the most useful software tool for anyone in the building industry, especially for those involved on a BIM project. BIM, Building Information Modeling, requires the architect, mechanical, structural, electrical, and other consultants or contractors to work together on a building project. Navigator brings all of the BIM files, 3D or 2D, together from all disciplines for review, measurements, markups, walkthrough, fly-through, schedule simulation, and clash detection. In addition, Navigator can produce reports about the items of material such as windows, doors, structural elements, heating, ventilating, air conditioning, and more. Let's get right into how it works. First, it's necessary to compose what's called an I model for review. An I model is a composite model, 3D files, which can be made from almost any file format, including MicroStation, AutoCAD, Revit, SketchUp, Rhino, and much more. I models can be created by MicroStation itself or by a companion product to Bentley Navigator called the I Model Composer. Let's start with I Model Composer. You can find I Model Composer and Navigator on your student server and download and install like any other Windows program. And then after it's installed on your Windows computer, you can find it in all programs and launch it. When it comes up, I Model Composer stops at this dialog called File Open. Here you can search recent files or create a new file or navigate and open a file of almost any format. Just go to the desktop, in our case called Tom's Rhino Models. You can start with any of these kind of file formats here to begin your composite model creation. So let's start with the shell composite. How about that? It's a project name. DWG means it's an AutoCAD 3D file, and we'll start with that one. So we're going to just open it right up. When we get to I Model Composer, it opens up, and there's our 3D file that came from AutoCAD. This may have actually been done in Revit and converted to AutoCAD. It's hard to tell where it originally came from, but right now it's a DWG file. What we're after now is how do you create an I model out of something like, in this case, a DWG AutoCAD model. And it's about as simple as it can be in I Model Composer or in MicroStation itself. If you've opened a file like that, you'll find under the File menu, Publish I Model. Now before I do it, watch down here on the status bar. Let's just go and do that. Let's go and publish an I model. It says, do you want to force republishing of all files? If we had already published it once, we'll overwrite. We want to create a package, but an I model itself is a package. So we'll just go with the defaults and click OK. And you see the hourglass there as it's going through and looking at the file. Comes down and tells us, we succeeded, nothing failed, everything's up to date, and we now have an I model created out of the AutoCAD DWG file that we started with. That's really all you need to know as a minimum about I Model Composer or creating I models from a MicroStation file. Of course, there's much more. Maybe the next thing to learn would be, if you have a file like this, you can reference other files and have those in the composite I model as well. So you would just come here, you would go Tools, Attach. We're going to attach a reference, and we could attach any one of these MicroStation files to the published file, or look at the different formats that we can go and find. We can reference in DGN library. We can hidden file. Here's the Autodesk DWG DXF, actually all the way back to release 10 or many years ago. Triforma, 3D Studio Max if you have that. Shape files, that's from Esri. Tab files, Autodesk FBX file. Here's an important one, IFC. That's Industry Foundation Class. It's one of the standard exchange file formats for architectural models and information. From Rhino, SketchUp, and actually even other files such as raster files and the like. Let's let it go at that for iModel Composer, because we really want to spend most of our time in Navigator itself. So I'm going to close this out, and we're going to exit out of iModel Composer, and we'll be ready to start up Bentley Navigator. Starting up Bentley Navigator is exactly like starting up any other Windows program. Go to the Start menu, find All Programs, and then under Bentley you'll find Bentley Navigator V8i. And when you do launch it, it'll come up to the File Open dialog box in Bentley Navigator, very like the one we saw in iModel Composer, and just like you would see in MicroStation and many other Bentley software. So again, just to review, you can go and look for the file you want from recent places, the desktop, libraries, the computer, or out on the network. And there's the usual, let me go back to the last folder I was in, or go up one level, create a new folder to put our new work into. View menu, I can look at my file history, or just the directory history. Down here is the user project interface, so we can set up a special workspace, it's called, and so that when we come back and we would pick on our particular username and the particular project and whatever user interface, why it would go directly to that path, and all the paths would be set that way throughout the operation. So we're in Examples General Default Workspace, and in that we find all the iModels that we happen to have at this moment on this particular computer. Let's start with building.i.dgn, because that's one that it's delivered with the product. So when you first install, that file will come and we'll all be looking at the same file. So let's open building.i.dgn. We're going to open up an iModel for a building. Now, just to give you a feel, this doesn't have to be buildings. It can be process plants, and we're going to look at one of those, or it can be a road, a bridge. It can be anything that's built. Anything in the built environment can be modeled, created into an iModel, and then reviewed with Bentley Navigator. Now this model is a complete model, has HVAC, structural, all the architectural features. It contains both the graphics that we're looking at and also non-graphic item data about the materials and the like that's used in the construction of this project. It's about a 25,000 square foot, 3-story building, so it's not huge but not insignificant either, just to give you a feel for what we're going to be working with. So hopefully you're booted up on your computer and you're looking at the same screen that I am, the graphic user interface. You can see that up here we have the File, Edit, Settings, Tools, Review, Window, and Help. And then underneath we can go to a previous file we had open. Of course, this is the first one, so that's grayed out. Or the one we looked at next to that. We can have as many open views as we want. So also up in the banner you can see the name of the file that we opened is shown up here. In this case, overlay.dgn. It's an iModel, different way to say the iModel with the overlay. It's a 3D file. It's Bentley Navigator Select Series 3. Okay, that's what we're using at the moment. And the menu structure is very like, again, any Windows application. File, you can look here, we can open files, close them, save them as a different name. There's an item browser, we'll want to look at that. Project Explorer, definitely want to look at that. We'll want to analyze a point cloud. That's a really great feature of Navigator. Look at design history. We can export to, notice over there, Luxology. That's a rendering software. We can export to Google Earth, Collada, U3D. We can print preview, print, or print to PDF right off the. We don't have to have Acrobat. We can just print this right out to PDF, to 3D PDF too. We can look at the properties of a file. We can protect it with digital rights and the like, passwords, or we can send the file to someone. Here's all the recent files. You can see I've been in and out of this quite a bit. So that's the file menu. Edit, typical, undo, really nice, undo all the way back to the beginning. Redo, we can set a mark and then undo to the mark. Cut, copy, paste, whatever is selected to the clipboard. Paste special. We can search and find text in our file. Select all, select none, select by attributes. What that means is we can select by the type of item it is, the level, layer that it's on, color, style, and so on. Okay, in settings, AccuDraw is a wonderful feature that facilitates drafting with precision. We'll talk a little about that. Auxiliary coordinates, we can set up construction planes. We can snap to the geometry, this full geometry in this iModel file, whether it came from AutoCAD or Revit or whatever. Complete precision. Nothing's given up. Color books, okay, display styles. We can assign buttons on our mouse. Function keys we can assign. Here's where you'd go, by the way, for license management. If you downloaded this from Student Server, you would have found the activation code, it's called, right on the student server page, and hopefully you copied that. Then you'd come here to license management when you booted up or launched Navigator the first time. You'd go to license management. Up would pop this dialog. You go tools, product activation wizard, and then you can just step right through. Select subscriber activating against a hosted server. That's what you would be, and you would just click here, and right here is where you'd put your fancy number. So we'll cancel out here, but that's what you would do, and you'd follow the next, and you would be activated or licensed to run. Okay, that's settings, tools. Here's how you can pull up all the toolbars, many of which are already up over here in the tasks, and we won't go over all those right now. Review, you can review item sets, name groups, your markups. Window, you can arrange the windows if you have multiple windows open. See, right now we only have one, and it's sort of an isometric. We could open 2, 3, 4, even more if we wanted, and then we would click on window tile as an example, and it would open up like this, and then we could sort of fit the view in each window. And you see what we have here. We've got an isometric that's shaded. Then we've got a wireframe top view, a wireframe right view, a wireframe front view of our building all together. And generally, it's in Navigator, it's easier and better just to work with isometric, and let's fit that view. And this would be typical, to just work with the isometric whenever possible, but those other views are there whenever we need them. Here is the point cloud to attach one of those. Here's the element information. If we select a particular element in the file, click on this, click on the element, and it'll tell you all about it. Here we can actually list out our items that are contained in the file. For markups, Project Explorer,